So being solo before, it was slow motion. It was figuring stuff out by myself, and just like my stubbornness and grit like paid off in the long run to get to where I was. But today, if you can find the right group of people, help each other, and form like a syndicate of guys that help each other out. In the fitness industry, we had guys coming together, sharing ideas, helping us overcome problems in our business. Everybody's got like the same problems and same issues. Imagine somebody else has already been through that and figured it out. But that was my first group, and it was no turning back from there.
Welcome to the Superhuman Life. I'm your host, Frank Rich, and this is the only podcast in the world dedicated to helping men break free from the shackles of addiction through the power of faith and fitness. It is our goal with every episode to help you take back control and rebuild your body, mind, and spirit. And we do so by bringing you real and raw conversations with people just like you, aiming to find their place in this world while dealing with the everyday struggles and battles that we all face. Now, it is my belief that we were all created for a specific purpose. And if we can harness that belief or faith, then take control of our mind and body or fitness, then we can ultimately create the life that we've always dreamed about, our own superhuman life. I want to let you know how grateful and blessed I am to have you here with me today. Let's get on to today's show. Mike Westerdal, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Episode 83.
That's right.
What took us so long?
Well, you were on our show, #1 episode on the Strong by Design podcast, Truth About Porn.
Yes.
It's our most listened to episode.
Yes.
So you've been the guest.
I've been the guest twice. You know, Chris interviewed me, I believe it was 10 or 11. We talked progressive overload and muscle building. But
Okay.
I had Chris, your best friend and longtime employee. So everybody listening here, we have the CEO and owner, founder of Critical Bench Publishing, one of my best friends in the entire world with us here today. And this place is really special. You know, the audience, there's a large amount of people that have followed my personal journey, have followed the journey of this show. And I think you know a portion of this story, but I'm going to recap it here for both you and a listener to kind of set the tone of, because you guys are probably, if you're watching here on YouTube, you see right a little bit different of a location. It's not the backdrop with the books behind me. We're not recording this remotely. Maybe you guys hearing or saying, oh, this sounds really great today. So Mike is allowing us to record this in his office here at the Critical Bench compound. We're using their equipment. But why this place is so special to me, Mike, is obviously, meeting you guys back in 2017, the introduction through Vince and Dan. But the real transformation, the real day of change, and I don't think we'd be doing this podcast had we not gone through this day, but it was February 14th, 2019.
Valentine's Day.
It was Valentine's Day. It was a Thursday. It was our group workout day. And you may not remember this, but hopefully you remember the time. We had Lee Hayward here. Diana Gordon was here. Zach had brought in one of his buddies. We had a large group that day.
Okay.
And
I remember the workout.
Yeah, the workout of that day. And typically, like we did today, we work out, we train, we go to lunch as a group. That day, for whatever reason, Zach and I stayed back, and we sat in my car out front. And out of nowhere, the topic of pornography came up. And I just want to share this for the audience and share this for you to kind of set the tone of who you are and the impact that you've had on my life. And I definitely want to get into what you've built here and kind of that journey. But it was that day, that conversation that has really started this journey that I've been on. So, Mike, I just want to tell you, man, I'm so grateful for you, for your friendship, for what you've meant to me in my life, and I'm really honored to have you here. And I am shocked that it's taken us this long to make this happen, because we had Chris on episode 3, we had Brian on episode 4, like we talked about. I've been on your show a handful of times. So, brother, with all that said, I know it's a long ramble and intro to start.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I haven't been doing the podcast tour. I'm usually busy trying to run this business and manage everything going on. So appreciate you having me on, and awesome that we've been friends this long. 86 episodes. How many have you been doing a week then? How long has this been going?
So we're coming up on, this will drop right at about 2 years. So episode 1 dropped on July 8th of 2019. We had a slow start, I would say, in year one. We definitely missed those weeks. This was on me, and consistency, which I know is something that you're really big on talking about. But yeah, I missed a couple weeks. I think I went a month in September of 2019 without airing a show. But for about the last 8 months now, we've been on this one a week, dropping every Monday.
Been on a roll.
Yeah, so it's been obviously a great blessing. It's had massive impact, and the show has evolved, and it's turned into launching of a new business, a whole new company for me, and it's really transformed my life, and it's changing a lot of men's lives as well. So I'm really excited to dive in. But you said that you've been focused, not really doing the podcast, or you've been focused on really building this business. Well, let's get into that.
Sure.
I know for you, Critical Bench started as a college project. So what we like to do here is through the use of storytelling, we like to extract value, pull out tactics, pull out tips and strategies that can pass along to our audience. So what I'd like to do here, Mike, is let's go from college project to today, and in the span of about an hour today, let's see if we can share that story.
We'll cover 20 years.
20 years in 60 minutes.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, right? So how did this whole thing start? That's probably the best place to start. First, what is Critical Bench? What do you guys do? Who do you service? And yeah, take us back to the beginning.
Sure. So Critical Bench is a fitness publishing company. So we sell workout videos, books, and information online, and we monetize with membership sites and using the email list and make an impact just across social media and pretty much everything online. So people sometimes give me that stare, like, what are you talking about? What do you do? Then I just say, have you seen Beachbody's infomercials on TV where they're selling like P90X and stuff? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, we do that on the internet. So that's Critical Bench now. Our market is more over 40-year-olds, kind of beginner stuff, because that's the most amount of people. But Critical Bench, you can imagine, is related to bench pressing. That's kind of how it started. We were in strength training, muscle building, but when I say we, it was just me at the beginning. So going back, I played football in high school. Chris, who's the other host on our show, our workout buddy from today, we actually had an awesome workout today, just went to lunch. Now we're back at the office doing this. So in college, I also played college football at Central Connecticut. I was a walk-on the team there, and it's pretty cool because I was not one of the bigger, stronger guys on the team at first. Those first 2 years, I was like a walk-on, not recruited because this was a Division I school. So I was just attending there, walked on the team, and actually quit in the middle of the first season because when I came in, they said, you can't just walk on the team, wait till the season starts, and then come back, and we'll give you a shot. So I had to leave, wait till school started. Then I went back to the coaches and said, can I try out or walk on? They're like, yeah, go to the locker room, see the cage, and go get some equipment. Went back there to get some equipment, and nothing fit. They gave me this helmet that you could spin around your head. It was so loose. And I'd seen these guys going out to the practice field. They were monsters. I was already nervous about walking on a Division I football team. I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to do this. So I actually didn't go. Almost failed out of college that year. I didn't have that structure in place, was partying too much. Then showed up to captain's practices. So there's no coaches, there's no pads. That's in the spring, kind of just getting conditioning ready for the next year. And one of the captains invited me to start working out with them, just lifting weights, running. And one of those guys gave me a weightlifting tip, which was increase the weight and lower your reps. Where my whole life, I'd always done 8 to 12 reps, and I got stronger, but I didn't really get much heavier or bigger. When I dropped the reps down to 5 reps, 3 reps, I put on 25 pounds over the summer. Continued that kind of training, made it onto the team the next season, wound up by my senior year having one of the stronger bench presses on the team. I was doing over 400 pounds, and guys, freshmen, people on the team always asking me for lifting advice. How do you get your bench up? That was one of the things we got tested in along with running and stuff. So that's why I was interested in bench pressing. Okay. That's how all that kind of started.
How big were you at this point, benching over 400 pounds as a senior?
Similar to what I am now, but about 6 foot, 230 pounds. Okay. By senior year. Junior year, 225. And
yeah, it's a really good. That's
but
it
was a big
ratio.
jump in the bench press. It was really went up 65 pounds in 1 year from changing this type of training, which was nervous system training and working on your bones and tendons and things more so than just your muscles.
Yeah.
So then it was the school project, making the website. So I don't know what to make a website about. Made it about bench pressing. I had a buddy help me put this up online, and I made a page right there talking about bench pressing. And I said, if you want a program send a check to this address. And I just put my address and my apartment on there. Forgot about the website, really. I was doing like an internship, finishing up college, and then like a check came in the mail one day for $20. And I was like, oh man, I got to like go write this thing. Wrote it up real quick. Took me like 3 days. Went to like Staples or Office Max and had it printed and binded and mailed out the first program. And that's kind of how it started, getting checks in the mail. That's how the website started back in the day.
No advertising, no marketing. I mean, people are just finding it through, what year is this?
Oh,
this is early 2000s? Or?
Yeah, this is like 2000. That's when the website first, that's how it started. So after that, I did have some full-time jobs for a while I did this on the side. So orders would keep coming in, people sending in checks. I would take my lunch break from my jobs and go like mail programs out at the post office. I'd work nights, I'd work weekends while like having a full-time job. But the full-time job was tough for me. I never made it at a job more than, I think 9 months was my record. I always felt like I was like looking out the window, feeling like I was stuck in a cage, working for somebody else. I'd have ideas, nobody wanted to hear them, and it just felt like, just didn't feel right. I just wanted to like do my own thing. But I wasn't making enough money yet. So I did work the jobs I had until I made enough money that I could start focusing completely on the website.
Yeah, so I think there's a great opportunity for a lesson here. I mean, so many people are gonna hear this and they'll be like, man, I'm exactly where Mike was. I'm driving 30, 45 minutes every day in rush hour traffic. I'm spending 8 hours working for the person that I don't really like. I'm not really bought into the vision here. It's basically just a paycheck. So what, for me, I've been the opposite. My entrepreneurship leaps have been like gun to the head. You're going to make it happen, or you're going to be, calling your friends to help you, cover bills. Like I did. And I don't recommend people do that. Like it's very scary when you don't have that security kind of coming in. So what was that processing going on like? What was that kind of dialogue for you in your head? Like, okay, I know that I want something bigger, but how were you kind of navigating like, okay, when is the right time to really pull the trigger, to go all in on the business?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I was actually at a mastermind event this past weekend in Dallas, and Dan Fleshman, he brought up the point to people he was talking to, and he said, don't just quit your job and start the business like cold turkey. He's like, build it up on the side until you've got enough money going, enough momentum going that you can quit your job and then focus on it. So it's not as much of a risk. So that was his advice. If you go back to when I was doing this, we didn't have masterminds. We didn't have these business events. There were no business coaches. There was no Facebook or really anything where you could like go get this help. There was like a couple marketing courses, and it was pretty much figure stuff out by yourself.
Well, this is in the early 2000s.
Right, early 2000s. Right. So there was no coaches or...
There's no coaches, and this is a conversation I had Brian Clayton on, who's the founder of Green Pal. He exited from a landscaping business, sold it for over 8 figures. And he was talking about this as we had a very similar, start to our conversation. But for him, I asked him about, what was this kind of desire to be an entrepreneur? And I can remember back in the early 2000s, like entrepreneurship wasn't an attractive thing. Like, labeling yourself as an entrepreneur, like you were looked at as a loser back then.
I don't think we even knew what it was.
Yeah, right? I mean, like entrepreneur, what's this? This is a German, Italian word. I don't even know the original. But for me, I knew from back in like elementary school, like business ownership was the path. When you got to fill out like what do you want to do when you grow up. Like I didn't have the idea of what I wanted the business to be, but it wasn't doctor, it wasn't lawyer, or any of these other kind of dream careers that kids have. It's like, no, I just want to own the business. I don't really know what that was. So I know that was maybe it was a part of my makeup. So was that a similar thing for you? Like, did you just feel that you were wired to be an entrepreneur, or did you have influences around you?
It's a good question. I think there's this thing called the immigrant edge, which all Americans, we came from somewhere. My parents were born in Sweden and immigrated here. I'm first generation born in the United States.
Okay.
So my dad, he left his country and started a business over here. He started working for a Swedish company that had a company in the United States, and then he eventually started his own company. But to leave like your country, your language, your family, everything, move across the ocean and just like start a new life, like I don't know if there's something there in the genes. I think anybody can do it, but I think there was something in there where that I saw that, right, as a child, my dad starting a business and like doing things on his own. So I think that definitely influenced me. And I'm not sure I knew exactly what I wanted. I didn't really know what entrepreneurship was. When I went to college, I just majored in business because that was like a wide thing with a lot of options. I always did good in the business classes intuitively. Like I got straight A's in that, where math and chemistry and science and everything, that was tough. I was more of like a C student across the boards on everything else.
Yeah.
But business and marketing always came naturally to me. And then I knew that when I got these jobs, none of this felt right to me. And then I had this going on the side that I really liked. But the big trigger point was when I was working at Boston sports clubs. I was doing I was a personal trainer and I was doing membership sales. And I was doing pretty well at the membership sales because what I did was I set up a lead box on the internet. So back in the day, what we'd do is we'd put these boxes in pizza shops and people would fill out the little card to win a free month at the gym. And then you call everybody who submits and everybody at least gets a free week, but you still pick one person that wins the month. But everybody, you call them in for the free week. And I actually took that idea, but I put it on a web page and advertised it on Google AdWords. So everyone searching for Boston sports clubs would see my ad before they saw like the corporate website for Boston sports clubs, and they were filling out the form online to win the free membership. I'd come into my email box, would have hundreds of people that entered to like win a free month, and I would call them all and give them like I'd mail them a card so they could go to the local gym wherever they live. And we could sell these passport memberships that you join all the gyms.
So you put them in the computer system as a lead attached to Mike.
Right.
So even if they went somewhere else and signed up, you would get a piece
like
of
they
that
signed
commission.
up at my location, but they had a virtually, but they had a passport so they could go anywhere. So it kind of bypassed wherever they went to. And it was great. I was making a lot of money. I was winning sales contests and getting awards and things.
6 figures?
Well, you've got months where, like the gym industry, September, everyone wants to go back to the gym. January, everybody wants to go back to the gym. Up in the Northeast, it slows down in the summer. Everybody wants to go on vacation and train outside and stuff. So there's really bad months, and then there's really hot months. So probably not 6 figures for the year, but probably some months we're making 10,000 or more. And but then we got in trouble. I came to work one day and the human resources lady from New York City was in my office sitting in my desk with the regional sales director. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's she doing in there? And they're like, you did not get this approved by corporate. Our attorneys have not looked at this. This is not like an approved thing. So they shut the whole thing down. I got a slap on the wrist, and then I had to go back to following their protocol on what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to go stand outside and pass out flyers to people when they walk by and do all the traditional ways. And then my sales dropped down to like 30 memberships a month, made no money. And then I wound up reading this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that just inspired me from that day on, which was, I think, 14 years ago, never to work for anyone else and never accept a paycheck from anyone else ever again. And I haven't since that day. If somebody wants coaching or consulting or speaking, like I'll do it for free. But I haven't been paid by anybody since that day.
Wow.
And that's when I decided to actually leave that area and just fresh start, picked St. Petersburg, Florida on the map and moved down here with my girlfriend who's now my wife.
Amazing. Would you describe yourself as like a techie guy? I mean, building a website back in early 2001 and then kind of having the wherewithal to like know, okay, I want to put this, like lead box. I worked in the gym industry as well. I was a part of Lifestyle Family Fitness. You may remember them being around here. We helped grand open the Gun Highway location, and we had months $12,000, $15,000, in commission. I tell any young man, like if you're struggling to find what you want to do, go sell gym memberships for multiple reasons. It's incredible training. You learn how to sell, you learn how to close, you learn how to talk to people. Also the networking. I know you're really big on networking.
I met my wife there too.
In there. Yeah, I mean, I have friendships, I have relationships. It's amazing. Well, if you're smart about it, for any young guy listening here, here's the tip and tactic. You obviously, if you're training or if you're selling, there's certain times of the day that you have to be on the clock, that you have to be working. But schedule your day to where you can train at the time that successful people are training. And most people know that 5, 6 a.m. get the successful early people before they go on their day. And then more importantly, around lunchtime, I don't know if you had the same thing, but around lunchtime, you get the business owners coming in, you get the entrepreneurs, you get the guys that are kind of already made, like they're going to come spend an hour or two and they're looking for people to talk to. So I can't tell you how much I've learned and networked. I still have people in my phone today that I met, around 1 o'clock working the gym floor. So I think that there's so much.
It's good for sure. And I was always shy and soft-spoken, so just having to speak to people and learn sales, it's going to serve you in pretty much anything you do.
Yeah, I want to ask you about this immigrant edge, because I've heard a lot about this. I've heard statistics with by the fourth, so you get immigration, immigrants come here, typically the first generation, so the first son of the immigrant or the first kids of the immigrant, those become the most successful, and then by the fourth generation, it's kind of already back down to baseline. So we got a lot of parents listening, a lot of dads. What are you doing, or what are you and Courtney kind of doing together to maybe prevent your kids from maybe feeling too entitled to maybe have some of these things that you got as an immigrant, being not you being an immigrant, but as being a first generation of an immigrant. So what are you kind of doing to maybe prevent that? Because
well, I didn't really get anything because my dad didn't sell the business till like 4 years ago.
Okay.
So we grew up with him, middle-class family.
That's what I'm saying is you didn't grow up super wealthy. You didn't grow up with a lot. Here you are now. Very successful business owner.
So how do you stop your kids from getting spoiled?
Yes.
And being ungrateful?
Yes.
It's all programming. So it's a good question. I've never been asked this before, but it's definitely something I think about. You can't just give them everything for free and just have handouts and like give them everything they want. They got to work for things. It's like if there's money for them, that's going to have to be just enough to get them started. Emmett Smith talked about this in Dallas too. He's like, he's not giving his kids nothing that they even know about, and he's going to give them just enough that they can get started. And if there's something else coming for them later when they're older, they're not even going to know about it. So you can set up trusts and things that drip it out. If you give everything to someone in their 20s, it could like ruin their lives. They're going to waste it, like get in some trouble. I'm thankful actually that I didn't have monetary success till I was older in life. I would have probably been dead or in jail if I got all this money in my 20s. Like it would have been dangerous. So, they have chores, they have allowances, they got to work for what they have. It's all about gratitude.
Got it.
They're in a Christian school, and it's really what we program them with and what we teach them.
Got it. No, that's great. I love that. So yeah, let's bring it. Let's bring it back here. So school project, you kind of get it. You get the site live. You kind of let it sit there. You forget about it. Did you just think like nobody's ever going to find this? Like was it just never thought that was going to really come to anything? And then you start getting these checks in the mail. This happens at Boston Sports Club. You realize like this corporate BS. I never want to work for these big wigs. I just can't believe like here you kind of hack this thing to bring them all these new customers instead of them actually going down and getting it approved. They just completely pulled it. So loss on their end. Now you're.
Well, I get what they're doing. They need systems and it's high turnover and they got to just plug people in so that anybody can just jump in and do the job. So I guess it's a good idea to have those systems in place where anybody can do it. But, there's the Seth Godin book, Linchpin, and that's not going to work anymore. You need people that can think. I do not want to hire a robot to work here, somebody that I got to give them an SOP on every single thing that they got to do, a standard operating procedure. I want people that come in here and they're better at what they're doing and they're telling me what they need to be doing versus me hand-holding them every way, telling them everything they got to do. If somebody comes in here with their degree and just wants to follow directions and instructions, that just like wastes our time. We need creative thinking people that are imaginative and coming up with new ideas and ways to help people and to make more money for the business. That's what we're looking for. And that's what's called a linchpin in that book, where I think a lot of times in school, we're taught to sit still, be quiet, follow instructions. And I think there's good information. You're learning basics and getting an education, but you're also getting taught to just really be a factory worker and just do the same thing over and over and over.
Well, let's call it what it is. You used the word programming when you talked about you and Courtney and what you guys are trying to pass down to your kids. And I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole here on the whole education system, but
sure.
They're being programmed for a certain way. We can look back at the design of the education system there. So you guys moved down here. You and Courtney instantly, boom, right into seven figures success. What's that story? What happens when you bring the business down? I got a question too that on this publishing thing, because when I first heard you, this was in a Roar meeting. So let's sidebar the moving down here. I want to ask you this publishing question. It was one of the first Roar meetings that I attended, and Roar is a mastermind group that Mike and I are a part of. We all had to go around and do our introductions, and I knew Mike as a fitness guy. I was, at the time, I was, in the early stages of starting Frankfurt's Fitness. I'd hired Vince Del Monte to be my coach. He had mentored you as well. So I looked at everything that we were doing as a fitness business. But you were very specific in describing Critical Bench as a fitness publishing company. I can't imagine that was how you processed it, and that was how you thought about the company in the beginning, writing bench pressing workouts.
Right.
So what was that transition like? When did that really kind of become, like, I guess, your area of expertise, being more of a publishing, and kind of like, how did that change you and your perspective and what you were trying to do with the business?
Well, it seemed like the first mastermind group I ever joined was Vince had one. I forget what year, maybe 2009. That was the first one I'd ever heard of, first one I ever joined. And in that group, it was like a lot of people doing personal brands. So it was like their name, their programs, their books, where I had given my business like a business name, Critical Bench. And you would maybe know who I am because I'm the author, or I wrote articles or different things on the website. But this was before there really was even YouTube and videos and things. So I didn't want to like be famous or be a celebrity or have my face be like on everything. So I definitely wrote dozens of programs and products as books. But then I started finding people that were like better on camera, more charismatic, could inspire followership better. And I started actually helping these people take their program and reach the masses with it. Because I was able to figure out how to like build an email list and doing, at the time, search engine stuff, so people were finding the website, and I wanted to give more variety of stuff with different experts. So I started actually making programs and having other people be the expert or the face of the products, and I was able to like, how many things can you be an expert on? Like, I'm a bench press expert, then what? Like, it just changes every few years. You're like an expert on something else. Like, I wanted to cover strength and health and fitness, and have different people that were the best in the industry at it. And it fit my personality well, because I didn't need to be front and center of the brand as this personal brand, which everyone's pushing now with social media, like build your own brand. Well, what happens if you get sick or in a car accident or can't work for 6 months? Like, everything stops because you can't make any content. It's like, I like these other models better, where there's like a multitude of people involved in the business, and I can be more behind the scenes, more of the leadership.
Yeah, and I know this is a big thing for you as well, is what you're really trying to do with the company now is get this to the point where it's a business that operates without you. I mean, that never happens with a personal brand. Like, you can't walk away from it and keep the business.
If you do, you have to sell your name with it. So I mean, it's definitely a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, then somebody's got to keep creating new content, though, and I mean, it's going to have to go through a transition there as well. Yeah, it's just, I don't know why, Mike. That's been a question I wanted to ask you for 3 years. Never came up. So it was just getting clear on understanding who you are and ultimately what the bigger vision was. So let's bring it back here home, and then so move down to Florida. Kind of, where's the business at that point?
So Florida had no state income tax. There was no snow, and the housing market, like, I'm trying to buy a 2-bedroom condo in Boston, was like $400,000. It was right before the crash. You come down here, you could get a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment or condo for like under $200,000. Yeah. Got the beach right here, the airport, the sports teams, no state income tax. Just totally different too. It was a fresh start. I could kind of move here and like create a life, build a life, versus like cool people up there and guys I hung out with, but it wasn't necessarily the most healthiest for all of us. So it was great to have a fresh start. Where was the business at? The business was at, I was making more with the business than I was at my full-time job at Boston Sports Club. So I was kind of double dipping there for a while. And then that really just triggered me with being creative and doing really well, and that getting shut down, and then the income dropped at the job. That's when I like really decided to burn the ships. And what you talked about, just putting the gun to the head and saying, all right, it's go time. We're going to make this happen, and there's no turning back. So I moved down, got the condo, and used to, at that time, the website had like thousands of pages, lots of interviews and articles, and you used to be able to like publish other people's things, but now it's duplicate content, and we just made all our money off the Google AdSense ads that were on the pages. It was getting up to like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month off just ads. So all I had to do every week was put up like another 10 pages on the website. And but then the scary thing happened one day. I got an email saying I violated a policy, but they didn't tell you what it was, and there was no way to dispute it, and that money stopped. Like, it disappeared. And then I was only making a few dollars on other things, enough to like still pay the mortgage and stuff, but income was gone. So I did find out somebody that helped me get an inside connection. We got them turned back on, but it was a wake up call that I needed to like figure out how can I sell my own stuff more and control more of our income. So at that point, it was timing with Vince's group.
Okay.
And he was kind of teaching guys how to like build their businesses up. And he was the top guy at that time in like muscle building on this platform ClickBank where we sell our stuff. And that was a $10,000. It was a huge pivotal moment in the business. $10,000 to join that group, which just finally gotten out of debt from like college and everything else, and just moved, fresh start. And I'm telling my wife, like, we want to do this. Do we want to take this leap of faith? And she was very supportive, and she's like, yeah, let's try it. And it was scary. I mean, we didn't have the money. We just charged it on a credit card, joined this group, and Mastermind, really just business owners coming together, small group. You've got a leader of the group who is Vince, sharing his knowledge with everybody. Wound up like becoming best friends with this group of guys. And in that next year, the business wound up doubling and not having to rely on these ads for money anymore, making our own products, learning how to sell them and do things, and really learning how important and valuable it is to like accept help from other people. Because I had been just riding solo before. I'd email a few guys like Nick Nilsson and some other muscle building guys, but really just figuring everything out by yourself. And you can do it, but it's the hard way. Like,
yeah, let's really zoom in here on this. Coaches or mentors or not trying to go about whether it's starting a business, whether it's anything. I don't think we're designed to do this life on our own. I mean, I talk at length about obviously the introduction here, the influence you and the team have had on here, obviously the influence that Vince has had on my life. So yeah, just speak more to if you can to the role of mentors in your life and other people. Like what should they be looking for in seeking a mentor or finding a coach? Yeah, let's just really kind of zoom in here.
Yeah, I mean, that really, I'm sharing, that was like life changing, and for us and for the business. It doubled that year, made friends with everybody, and that was from hiring my first coach ever. So being solo before, it was slow motion. It was figuring stuff out by myself, and just like my stubbornness and grit like paid off in the long run to get to where I was. But today, if you can find the right group of people, help each other, and form like a syndicate of guys that help each other out, there's that scarcity mindset of everyone's your competition and you got to like destroy them and you don't help each other. Where in the fitness industry, we had guys coming together, sharing ideas, helping us overcome problems in our business. Everybody's got like the same problems and same issues, or somebody's been through it already. The thing that's so confusing and complicated in your life, imagine somebody else has already been through that and figured it out, and they can help you with the situation. So that was my first group, and it was no turning back from there. The next group after that was $30,000, just as uncomfortable to join that group, nervous to do it. The next group after that, 100,000. That made 30K feel like a joke, but the 100 was now scary.
Yeah.
Every single time I've gotten into any of these business or mastermind mentorship groups, it's more relationships, it's more people, and you just go into those and you try to deliver value, help other people, and it just always comes around full circle. People wanting to help their friends, people want to make money with their friends. So networking is almost like a dirty word. You think you're going to do like these speed dating things, and you're just there to like pitch your product,
hand
and
out your business card,
get people to promote your stuff. But it's not what it's about. All networking is hanging out and like building relationships, sharing experiences together, and like getting to know people and figuring out how can you add value for them. What can you do to start the relationship? No one starts it that way. If I go check my inbox, it's like, hey, can you promote this? Can you read this? Can I have a review for this? No one ever is like offering like what they can do for you to help you along.
Yeah, I think for us sometimes I feel like maybe we take some of this for granted. I mean, our circle here, it's everybody's. This is the language. This is what we talk about on a daily, weekly basis. It's like we just know, like, yeah, you're not in a group, like get in a group, dummy, like make something happen. But I don't feel that that's the conversation going on with everybody. So if somebody's out there, what things should people be looking for and maybe finding a coach or mentor? How do you discern between, because there's a lot of BS, especially, I mean, we were somewhat having a conversation about this at lunch today, this coaches versus coaches or coaches coaching thing. So with the internet, I mean, obviously it's hard to really know the true story. So is there any, tips, practical advice if somebody's out there like, I like what Mike's saying here, but how do I find the right coach for myself?
Those are good questions. I like to work with people that they've already accomplished what it is I'm trying to do. So I don't want someone who's just a coach, but they've never done it. They haven't walked the walk. I want to see, like, if my goal, and there's coaches in different areas of your life too, don't get me wrong. We're talking about business right now, but our boy Will Grazione that was just here earlier working out with us, like, he's helping me with nutrition right now for some fat loss goals. And I've watched him. I've seen that he knows what he's doing, and he's worked with some very top-level people, and he's blown me away with his knowledge. I didn't just, get hit up on Instagram with a direct message from someone in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy knew what he was doing, and I wound up hiring him for that. We've got Dr. Ron from the Roar Group, which is Christian business building group, but it's also great for, wives and things to be part of, too, and get plugged in because we cover everything from relationships and friendships and life problems as well. So I knew from going to Ron's thing, this is the guy I want to help lead me spiritually and is a great fit for the wife and the family situation. Then I've got another group I'm in that's called the Elite 30 with Randy Davis, and he's built and sold 18 different businesses. And with him, he's really a mentor. So we're all there just to learn from him, and he's teaching the people in the group how to build and either sell your business or how to build and turn it into an auto business, which means you don't work there anymore and it runs without you. Because as an entrepreneur, we just want to be in control ourselves and not work for someone else. But then you wind up sometimes getting strapped where you're working 60 hours a week, you're working more for yourself, and you're just a highly paid self-employed person, which wasn't the plan, right? I'd like to be a business owner, not a self-employed guy that's working 50 hours a week.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad at the beginning. He had the follow-up book to that is the Cash Flow Quadrant. So have you read the Cash Flow?
I've read them all, but it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean that one was, and I've had this debate with my dad. For the longest time, he's like, "I'm a business owner." I was like, "No, you're self-employed." He had a job that he had to show up every single day. He had one employee that worked for him, but if he wasn't there, the business didn't run. I was like, "Oh, you're technically self-employed because you have to show up every single day." But yeah, that quadrant, it's its left side is employee, self-employed. Then you have business owner and investor on the right side, and the goal is to move. Obviously, at some point in everybody's life, they have to be on the left side. The goal is to get you to move to, from bottom left to top right, become a business owner, and then eventually long term is to become the investor, whether it's in the auto business or you're just taking your money.
And that's kind of what this next group, like the 100M and the Avengers, this is more guys that already have 7, 8, 9-figure businesses, and they want to learn how, now that I own a business and there's some extra money, how do I put this money to work and invest? And there's different opportunities there. So there's always something to get involved in. But if you don't, you're just doing it on your own. And I get in ruts too. I love going out and getting around this kind of environment with people where just the vibration is so much higher. You get fired up. You see really people doing bigger things than you, and it just stretches you. You got to get in the room where you're uncomfortable and you're not like the top dog or the smartest one. Same thing in fitness, right? Do you want to be working out with guys where you're the strongest guy all the time and they're all wanting advice from you? Sure, you want to give back sometimes and help those people out, but that can't be your main environment, or you're not stretching yourself or growing. You got to be chasing people. You got to be getting motivated and lifted up by people.
Yes, good segue here into one thing I know you talk a lot about, and Ron shared this with us, and I've heard you talk about this with Xander on stuff you don't learn in college podcast, and that's the PG version of that title. But let's, because you said here, getting in the rooms with the right people, kind of getting your energy, getting your vibrations up. That's, that's influences. So let's, I want to have you break down, ITAR, ITAR. And I think we're kind of right here at the beginning. So let's kind of use this to kind of segue.
Sure. You actually got it from Dr. Ron from Roar. So we'll give him credit for it. I think I forgot to mention that in the other things I've done. But yeah, I mean, a lot of us, we learn things in books, right? Yeah. And then we teach it, and then we forget who we got it from, and kind of put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an acronym, ITAR. The first thing is your influences. And that's really everything that feeds your subconscious mind, all the programming that comes in. And it starts with really what's in your environment. What do you watch on TV? Are you watching negative news every night and getting depressed about viruses and death and everything going on in the world? What kind of people are you hanging around? Check out your phone. Who are the 5 contacts or people that you talk to the most? Are these people that are lifting you up, or are these people that are dragging you down? Who do you work out with? Who are you around at work? And if you don't have this kind of environment, or you're in not a great environment right now, maybe you got some friends that aren't the best influences, but there's books, there's podcasts like this one that you can listen to. There's Facebook groups. There's all these places where you can get around the right kind of environment. But it's really, you have to be intentional about it, because if you don't think about this, it's just going to program you with the common thing is really just to be a victim, be negative, complain about everything, and like nothing's your fault. And that's like the standard. And I've just been thinking this way so long that like when I hear somebody bitching or moaning or complaining, like a wall goes up and I just kind of like block it out right away. Like my kids have to do burpees if they say the word can't. I'm like, don't say can't. Say, can you help me with this? Or I don't know how to do this yet. I'm like, just don't say can't. Like, don't limit yourself.
How
It's
many
all
burpees?
this. It's all depends. Like 10. Depends how many times that day they said it, but they rarely say it anymore. I just want them to know, anything's possible, and you're going to be setting your own standards and have your own dreams. Don't let anybody else tell you what you can or can't do.
Yeah, no, it's so so crazy where we're talking about this right now, because on the way to lunch we were like, yeah, it's Mike's a business guy, that's what he really really loves. We don't really have the perfect business on it. We have we have a lot of entrepreneurs, but we're saying like, yeah, business and entrepreneurship is really the greatest self-development course. I mean, all these principles and tactics apply to business. They apply to training, physical training, and they apply to the work that I do. I mean, obviously very very familiar with Rebuild Recovery. And in weeks 1 and 2, we go through this influence. We go through the content, the things that you're consuming. Obviously, how does that kind of lead you? How does that program you? How is that maybe a gateway into the pornography thing? And then in week 2, we have a cleanup. I call it purging or house cleaning. So we purge your content in week 1, and then we purge your network in week 2. If you're a guy that is struggling with objectifying women, and every Saturday night you're going out to the bar with your buddies and you're objectifying women, well, obviously, this influence is gonna deter you in the progress of what we're trying to make.
Cleaning up all the influences.
Yeah.
In the first week or 2.
Yeah. So ITAR, I is influence. Where does that lead us to with T?
All these influences come in, and those are going to affect your thoughts. So all this stuff coming in, that's the next thing you're going to be thinking about. So like you said, if you're getting all these Instagram things that are objectifying women, then you're going to start thinking about that a lot more than if you cut out that influence. So same thing in any endeavor in life, whether it's business or sports, whatever influences are coming in, that's what your thoughts are going to start thinking about. And ultimately your thoughts, that's your programming in your subconscious mind, and your brain does not know the difference of what's real or what's imagined. And we can't really stop these negative thoughts. Every human has tons of negative thoughts in their brains every day. You're just trying to like reduce this and kind of like switch lanes or switch gears on it.
Well, I'm sure this is similar for you. What I've noticed happen is, as these last few years I've really paid attention and really consciously worked on these things. It's like your awareness of your thoughts like rises. So you said you can't prevent them from coming in, but when you gain that conscious awareness, it's like the minute it's there, you're like, oh, the Bible tells us to take every thought captive.
Yep.
So the minute we recognize it, boom, let me grab this and let me tuck this away. I can't delete it, but let me put it in its right place, and then let me be intentional about reprogramming positive thoughts. Perfect time for gratitude. So I love this. So our influences dictate our thoughts. Our thoughts lead us to our...
Well, do you know the answer?
I do know the answer.
Actions, right? So what you're thinking about is what you're going to wind up doing. And then your actions lead to the R, which is your results. What you do, your habits, your daily routine, that's going to lead to your results. So it all starts with the influences, the thoughts, the actions, and the results. So really, I think this comes down to stage 1, step 1, like for your program in week 1 and 2, really being intentional and controlling all of these influences in your life. Really setting up the right environment.
how do you help people? I know this is not what you help people do, but and you clearly don't have the victim, the victim mindset or victim mentality, but I'm already, already just hearing so many people kind of in their heads right now. Yeah, Mike, this sounds great, but you don't know me. You don't know my situation. You don't know what I've been through, or, I can't, I'm barely getting by. How am I going to, get in the right rooms with people? Like, so how do we get somebody out of this victim mindset of like, poor me, poor me, poor me, to begin to actually take action on some of these things?
It's some of those things we were talking about, what you're listening to, what you're reading, finding some mentors. If you can't afford this, you're also, there's like frequencies of energy. Everything's energy. And I think that like where you are and who you're around, you can increase your frequency, and then you'll attract like different things into your life. It kind of sounds hocus pocus, but you can go free like into a really nice hotel and sit at the bar and order like a water or an unsweet tea and like do work for a little bit.
Yes.
And then somebody might come sit next to you that's staying at that hotel. You're going to feel different in there than you're going to feel like hanging out at the strip club and just like feeling like a scumbag a little bit. It's like totally different vibrations at each place. And there's these free things where you can go raise your vibration. Maybe you can't afford to like go rent a Lamborghini. It would feel like it would be a waste of money or a stupid thing to do. But I'm saying just going to the dealership and walking around and looking at the cars, just that alone would raise your vibration. Another thing you could do is just carry some extra cash in your wallet. I'm not talking going out and spend $500. Maybe you only have $500 in your account. Let's say you had $200 on you at all times everywhere you went, and you're not even planning on spending it. You feel different just walking around with that money in your pocket than you do if you don't.
I used to do that. I used to carry around $300 or $400 bills, 3 to 4 $100 bills. I remember it was something I heard Tony Robbins talk about long time ago. Everybody knows I'm a huge Tony fan. Been following him for probably 20 years almost now. But yeah, that was the thing I remember. Like I had the paperclip wallet, not the paperclip, but the money clip wallet, the money clip wallet, and then inside of that it'd be $400 bills, and people, my mom and my sister would be like, "What are you doing?" I was in my early 20s back at the time, and I was like, I just want to remind myself that I have money. This is what it feels like to have money all the time. One thing Ed Milet talks about is like touching your dreams, and this is what you're kind of saying. Like maybe go sit at the lobby or sit at the bar at a 5-end restaurant or walk the dealership. It's like you may not be there yet, but go experience it, go touch it, go feel what it feels like to be in and of those surroundings, and take a trip. I had one of my guys that just took a 2-week trip down to Miami and just was, in these high-rise hotels, and like just got himself out of this toxic environment. He got back and he's like, dude, I've realized like my family, my environment, my surroundings have been holding me back for the longest time. Paid off, literally the day that he got back, paid off all his student debt, is now putting a plan in place to get him out of his job, to start a new business, and to get him moved from Baltimore down to Miami. Just with one trip, all that happened. So
yeah, that's your vibration right there. It's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Let's talk about yours and Courtney's relationship, because I know we got obviously a lot of, vast majority of men here. Some are married, some are, in relationships. Maybe they're looking at like, okay, like what Mike is saying here, I want to maybe start this thing. How did the buy-in with Courtney? I can't imagine that was an easy transition. You said you hadn't really had huge financial success, but how did you kind of get her to buy into moving down here with you, to kind of getting supporting you in this journey?
So when we weren't dating for very long when I had kind of decided that I was moving to Florida.
Okay.
So I was not expecting her
to come.
I wasn't. I kind of let her know I was going, and I thought maybe we were breaking up. But she said to me at that point, she said, "You're not leaving me here." And I was like, "All right, we'll see what happens." So, yeah, she was like, I guess she was ready for a change.
Okay.
Something felt like she wanted to do something different or try something different too. So maybe there was a piece of her that wasn't crazy about the career and things she was in as well. So a new adventure, and things were going good so far. So that part, but it did take time to kind of build up some trust with her, because at the beginning, she was waitressing and making some money, but there'd be weeks where we didn't have grocery money yet, and I'd have to go to the post office and hopefully like a check came in. But then sometimes I'd have to come back and she'd be crying because there was no stability, no set money like every Thursday. So it wasn't like feeling that freedom wasn't there yet. It was like we were just struggling at first. And that wasn't the best situation. Really, that pivotal moment was that leap of faith of joining that mastermind. And the fact that she was supportive in that idea of that you have to invest in yourself and that you have to really build your network and start like meeting other people to fast forward your results. She was on board with, let's see what happens and let's try that. And I think without that, if she would have blocked that right then and there and said, we can't afford it, we're not going into debt,
We probably wouldn't be sitting here
this
today.
is a deal breaker. No, I mean, I could be, who knows? Yeah. That was a huge pivotal moment, getting into one of these groups, starting to go out there. She pushes me out the door. Honestly, for most of these business trips and meetings, like I'm pretty get comfortable quick. I'm home for 2 weeks. I'm starting to make some progress, like getting in a routine. And then there's another trip coming up, and I'm like, I don't know if I need to go to this one. I got so much stuff going on right now. And she'll be like, push me out the door. She's like, no, just keep showing up. And that's another one. That's for everybody. Just keep showing up.
What kept your faith? So I mean, I know your faith is incredibly strong, so that may be the answer right there. But you know, I know what that feels like to swipe the card and it gets declined for groceries. You know, or to go, you know, you get the email that, you know, the transaction went through, but it's gonna cost you $35 in fees. So not only now do you got to find the money to make up for the negative balance, but you got to find the $35 to cover the fees of the transaction that they covered for you. So what kept, you know, you going in those moments? Could have very
These are hard questions. You're making me like really self-reflect here on all this stuff. But yeah, every step, it doesn't get less scary. Like that was scary then, but then the next group was scary. The next group was scary. Hiring the next employee is scary. All these next moves, every single step of the way, you're nervous and everything could crumble with like the next power move. So really the default thing, the feeling is like freezing and like not doing anything. That would be like the natural thing, is like to give into your fear, to quit and to like not keep moving forward. But every time I've taken that action step, kept heading in the right direction, it doesn't always work, but it could be a step back, 2 steps forward. Like it keeps moving in the right direction as long as you just keep going for it, keep trying. And I think I've trained myself a lot to be uncomfortable and to do things that make me nervous or afraid or really scared. Every trip we go on, every vacation we go on, our whole family does this. We always do something that's like stepping out of our comfort zone and scary for everybody. We were just in Costa Rica and we did this 1 mile long Superman zip line where you're way above the trees, lying on your stomach and gliding over the zip line. And I hate heights. It like makes me dizzy and I think I'm going to faint. And I keep doing this stuff. I went up in a hot air balloon, went across a suspension bridge over a gorge, like stuff I hate. But each time I do it, it gets easier and easier each time. To like, I got this trip coming up. I'm supposed to be skydiving with Navy SEALs. It's probably the last thing in the world I want to do is jump out of an airplane. But I'm going to come back from this trip in a few weeks. And unless it got canceled or I died, like it's going to happen. Like I'm going to do it. It's like you have to act in spite of that fear. You've heard the word fearless before. It doesn't, even military people and guys you think are super brave and have courage, doesn't mean that they're not afraid. Everybody's afraid. They just fear less. So eventually you train yourself in these situations to keep making decisions. It's one of our core values is decisiveness, which means don't sit there for 6 months over a stupid decision that you should have decided months ago. Make a decision, move on. And if it's the wrong decision, you're still learning from it. It's not a failure and you're going to get better and you keep going. Or you got the guy that's got the paralysis by analysis and they just stand there thinking about it for a year and they haven't moved or done anything. Where I'm going to keep moving and half of the stuff's going to be wrong, but down the road I'm going to be a lot farther along because I kept moving forward. As our friend Craig Ballantyne says, action beats anxiety.
Yeah, and the key word, what really jumped out to me there is you said you've trained yourself over years, over a decade plus of exposing yourself to these difficult decisions, getting in these uncomfortable rooms, being around those right type of influences, bringing your energy level up. It's not a flip of a switch where you just kind of sit there and say, okay, I'm no longer going to have fear. It's like, no, start small. Everybody hearing like knows I'm a massive fan of cold showers first thing in the morning. And it's not, there's some physiological things that kind of occur when you get exposed to cold. Yeah, that's some of the benefits. What the real value of something like that is, it's the willingness to do the hard thing every single day. I don't want to stand there in cold water for 90 seconds every single morning. The warm water would feel so much better, but because I'm willing to do it, I'm willing to expose myself to the hard things first thing in the morning when the difficult things arise throughout the day. And where I translate this to my guys is the difficult thing for you is going to be not giving in to that temptation, not giving in to that trigger. For somebody building a business, the difficult thing could be like maybe pulling the trigger on a marketing thing, or maybe pulling the trigger on a new hire or something like that. Like exposing yourself to something difficult every single day. Now you've prepared and you trained yourself like, oh, this little thing, I'm fearful of it.
You build confidence too.
Yes.
With these small wins start adding up.
Yes. Small.
Then your identity starts to change. It's like who you are. You're not going to be that person that's going to be scared. You're going to keep moving.
No, I love that. Let's talk about your team. Let's talk about the business and what you guys are building here. You have these 7 keys to success. You talked about your core values, core principles. What's the foundation that you're building everything here with Critical Bench and Strong by Design? What are these pillars? How do they kind of?
So Dr. Ron from Roar that we already mentioned, he came in.
Got to get Dr. Ron on the show. I mean, I haven't had him on him yet. No, we might have to set something.
Tell him to talk about something else besides ITAR.
Hey, can you, Ron? Can you come just do a recap on did Mike get everything correct?
Yeah, well, he came in for a consulting day, really to help us build our core values, which the core values of the business, that's what you hire based on and what you fire based on. It's pretty much our guiding principles of who we will or won't work with. So getting that set up is like the foundational kind of piece of building everything outward. Because a lot of times people build up teams and everything, and then they don't have a company real culture. So everything's based around this. Everybody's got to be like an A+ in all of these core principles.
Where are we at in the company now? So we are in Tampa. What's it like working with Chris? So I've not Chris as the person, but Chris is, he's a childhood best friend. I've never had a best friend work for a company that I've owned. I've had people that have worked for me in other people's companies that have been very good friends. I don't advise that. And I've also worked for very good friends of mine. That hasn't worked for me in either situation. It hasn't worked for me as managing friends, and it hasn't worked for me being an employee of my friends. How do you guys kind of make this thing work?
Chris is awesome, and he does an amazing job, and we're able to like balance this in a special kind of way where we kind of separate friendship and work time. So he's been real good at that. We communicated really well, but I don't know if it's something I'd recommend hiring like friends and family, because I think they almost become like untouchable.
Yeah.
Where if you do fire them or it doesn't work out, like the relationship is like ruined for a long time. So that's the danger in doing this. It's a whole nother thing with partners too. It's like having partners in your business and things. A lot of people sometimes are like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. The other person's thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. Hopefully he knows what he's doing. And then you just like, hey, you want to like do something together? It's like, it's a marriage going into business with somebody. And you got to look at it that way. You wouldn't just like get married overnight, not really knowing the person. So yeah, it works great for us. I think the biggest thing I've learned is the importance of crucial conversations with people. And I think so many people, they don't want confrontation or conflict or those like awkward conversations with people, whether it's family or friends or coworkers or employees or employers. And then there's always this like background kind of tension that can lead to like passive aggressive, weird situations and energy. And it's like, if you do care about the relationship, which you should care about the relationship of all your employees and people you work with, then it's about connecting with the people. It's like that connection in the relationship is what comes first. You put that first. And if you care about that and the people, you're going to have some of these hard conversations sometimes. And it's like so against my nature to want to have these tough talks with people sometimes. And same with me. But I appreciate when it happens versus someone just cutting you out or not being your friend anymore because they think something happened. But if you guys would have actually talked it out, you would have realized that's not how it was intended. So I think having these hard conversations with people sometimes, finding common ground and really communicating is really something that I've had to do as a leader, talk with people and figure things out. Where before having employees in a business, it would be real easy to just ignore all this stuff.
Yeah. So how's that been for you and, managing your time moving from, self-employed, we were left side column, now we can say, obviously Mike is working on the right side. He's definitely a business owner. He's got a team here. There's days where, talking about you're going to be gone for an entire month. What has kind of been that transition in your day-to-day schedule? Do you have a routine in the morning? Do you have, a list of things that you work on first thing in the morning? Kind of what's your day like now as no longer the solo guy to becoming that kind of, CEO kind of operator of the business? What's kind of your focus in the business?
Well, it's funny because when I used to have the full-time job, I'd look out the window and saying, I hate being in rush hour traffic and being in the cubicle all day, and I feel so trapped and I have no freedom. Then I got out of that situation and was doing a business, and I was realizing nobody else was around. It was kind of lonely. Everybody was at work. Nobody could hang out, and I was kind of all by myself all the time. So I got used to that for a little bit and did that for a while. And then as I started building a team, I actually found freedom through structure again. So now I have a normal work day again, just like I used to have that I didn't want to have. And now I'm like in this situation again. But this all happened when my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, Karina. She was born and she had some stomach issues and she had sepsis when she was born on antibiotics. Her gut didn't colonize the right way and she just wound up having a lot of stomach aches when she was a baby. My wife had postpartum depression and I was in a situation where I needed to help out, needed to be there for my wife and help with the baby, and I was not able to work like my normal 50 hours a week or whatever I was doing. So I had an office. I would go there for like 3 hours and just do the most important things that needed to be done to keep things alive. And I would just prioritize and work on these big things, and then I'd go home and help. And this went on for about a year. And I think you know what happened here during this year. That was another year where business went up by a lot. And that was a year when I worked like half as much time. So that's when I realized that being busy and putting in a lot of hours is not the same thing as being productive. And there's that story. Have you heard the one about the big rocks?
I have, but I don't think our listeners have. So maybe this is a good one to share with the listeners.
Well, I think it's from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's from that book. There's a story they tell in the book, which is a great book, by the way. But there was a teacher that had an aquarium tank in front of the class, and he took these big rocks and stuck them in the aquarium, and he asked everybody in the classroom, is this tank full now? And everybody's like, yeah, you just filled it up with the big rocks, it's done. And he's like, okay. So then he grabbed some smaller pebbles, and he poured those on top, and they all fell through the cracks and filled it up some more. Now it's looking really full. Again, ask the same question. Everybody thinks it's full. Yeah, all right, I get it. It's done. Then he goes and he grabs some sand, pours that on top, fills it in even more between all the cracks and fills it up. Is it full now? Now people are starting to get the picture. Probably not. And then he pours some water on top of that and it fills it up even more. Now, what would happen if he did this backwards? What if he took the water and the sand and stuff and put it in first, and then you put those big rocks in?
They wouldn't fit.
They wouldn't fit. Everything would start pouring out. And that's really just an analogy for your day and your priorities and the really busyness and productivity. So you really need to think, what are your big rocks, what are your big priorities? What are the big needle movers in your life? Whatever it is you're working on, what are the big things that will make the biggest impact or the biggest change for you? And those are the things that, for us, we work on first thing in the morning. It's the uninterrupted time. It's when the phones are off. It's when the doors are shut. We don't have meetings. We don't have calls. We don't do podcasts. It's everybody focusing on their big rocks in the morning, undisturbed for a few hours. And for someone else, it could be health goals. It could be other things where what's the most important thing in your life you're working on? You've got to prioritize that first thing.
Yeah, it could be relationship. If your marriage is in shambles right now and you can't seem to see eye to eye with your wife, like, don't go throughout your week, getting up, going to work, high-fiving each other as you walk through, leaving the house, and then think that you're going to fix a relationship Friday or Saturday night on date night. No, the big rock in your life right now is the relationship. So have the conversation, communicate with your wife. Hey, maybe we need to spend time together in the morning. Maybe we have breakfast together. If it's a fitness thing, like big rock is getting my weight down. Don't go all throughout your day and then think, yeah, I'm going to get to the gym at 6 o'clock if you've never been consistently at the gym at 6 o'clock. No, get up, get your gym done before you go to work.
Right.
Like
and if you put the big priorities first, you actually can have time for everything you're doing, but you can't do it backwards. By the end of the day, afternoon time, that's when we do our busy work stuff. That's replying to emails, meetings, phone calls, all that stuff. And that's later in the day. If you came in and started checking Facebook and reading stories on Google and stuff and doing all this busy work, you think you're going to want to like write a few chapters in your book in the afternoon? Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just procrastinating. Everybody procrastinates everything. So Craig talks about frogs. If you've got 2 giant frogs and you have to eat it by the end of the day, like when should you eat it?
Eat the frog.
Just eat it.
In the morning.
Do it right away. Get it done.
That's Brian Tracy's book, Eat the Frog. I mean, that's the principle. Like, that is an entire book called Eat the Frog. It's like, do the most difficult thing first in the morning. So if you're out there, you're kind of this guy that we've been talking to, you're maybe working in the corporate gig, or you may be thinking like, I'm ready for something more. Like, don't think that, at the end of a workday, all this is going to happen. Get up first thing in the morning. Mike, what's your personal morning routine? Do you have one? Or I know not everybody's this most structured guy,
It's changed over time. Right now I've got young kids in elementary school. So my alarm goes off at 6:30, wake them up at 7. It's pretty much family stuff of getting them situated and out the door. We leave the house an hour later at 8 o'clock. I drop them off at school, and then I come to the office. And then at the office, then that's devotional prayer time and gratitude is like probably done in like less than 30 minutes. And that just kind of gets the mind straight and sets like the day on the right track mentally.
Yeah.
And then from there, then it's big rock time for like 3 hours. Then the workout at noon, which I've tried different times. And if I do it too much of this other stuff in the morning, then the day's like half done and I get stressed out that I haven't gotten any work done yet. So I like to do the big rocks first, workout at noon, which actually gives you like a new burst of energy instead of like an afternoon crash. So that kind of gets me through the afternoon by having that there. And then the afternoon is more, like I was saying, calls, meetings, things like that. And I try to cut out anywhere from 4 to 5. And then if I need to, I have a longer night sometimes.
Yeah, I've gotten some emails from you 10:30, 11 o'clock.
I'm pretty good at when I get home too. Like, I'm not like one of those guys staring at the phone all the time. It's done. Spend time with the wife and the kids, dinner, play with them for a while. Bedtime's like 8 or 9 o'clock. Everything's said and done. It's probably like 9:30. And then my wife and I'll talk or watch a show or something. And then it's good to go to bed for me, like at 10:30, get like 7-8 hours sleep. But if there's something going on and I need to do something, that would be the time where I could hop back on for an hour or something. If there's something big I'm working on or something going on.
Yeah, that lunch workout time has really it's really been the sweet spot for me here too. I start my day a little bit earlier than you. I'd say 7:30 now is kind of when I'm starting the work day. So I'm getting the gym around 11, but it's the same thing. That early morning, work on projects, things that I need to kind of get done. If I need to squeeze in a call because I have a lot of international clients, sometimes those need to happen in the morning. But yeah, it's 3-4 hours of focused work first thing in the morning, get that workout refresh, charge. And then the afternoon stuff is calls, podcasting, all the things that we're doing here.
Those different areas of life that you got to hit. For me, it's God, it's family, it's business in that order. And then health is like part of all that. You can't do any of those if you don't have your health.
Yeah.
So like different buckets got to get hit every day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to ask you another tough one here, Mike. I'll talk to you about powerlifting. Obviously it's not something that you do anymore. I mean, you've had some really impressive, numbers here, 630 pound, competition bench press. What's your max squat?
All the lifts were the same. They were all like around 600 or 630.
Yeah.
Like I would do bench, squat, and deadlift were all like the same number.
I mean, in impressive numbers. Let me ask you though. I was with Zach a couple weekends ago. Zach's a younger guy. He's in his late 20s now, and he was talking about he's feeling this urge, and he feels like he's still got this competitive kind of lever that he's got to like pull. Like he's not yet through like being a hard charging competitive kind of athlete. I kind of cut my teeth in bodybuilding. That was really what kind of kept me competitive in my 20s. For you, it was powerlifting. So, bringing it back to business, entrepreneurship, what role in how do you feel, being a competitive powerlifter, kind of pushing your physique, pushing your body to the max? Like, how is that carried over into, maybe life, maybe parenting, maybe business in general? How did going through, like really seeing what you can accomplish physically, how is this carrying over into what you're doing in life now? You're in a completely different season.
It's the same thing as from a teenager of lifting weights every day, trying to get bigger and stronger in the gym. You're going through this, training of, it's not comfortable. You're getting uncomfortable. You're pushing yourself. And you're seeing results, and they don't come quickly. You don't, in like 14 days, all of a sudden get a lot stronger. This comes over time, and it's that learning persistence, overcoming challenges, and then playing football. You've got a team, you've got other people you're around. You're really just seeing like what you're capable of, and you're getting in situations that you think you're not going to make it, and you make it, and you just build that confidence. And then later in life, when you get into a tough situation, it really doesn't seem so bad because you've been through a lot harder things. So even just playing college football, same stuff, that just carried over. And I went into powerlifting being like, I've had to tackle fullbacks and couldn't barely breathe and had to finish the fourth quarter. It's like, I think I can like add 30 pounds to my bench in the next couple months. It's not that big of a deal. But, yeah, for powerlifting, I mean, that wasn't like extreme, and I felt like it was a lot of adrenaline and excitement. I mean, having that much weight on you, knowing that if you screw up and this falls on your face, like there's a real risk factor there of injury or death.
Well, not even you screwing up. If something,
Right.
That's a lot of load. I mean, something snaps, something pulls, you're slightly offline a little bit. It couldn't even be your fault. It could just be a slip or a snap of something.
You always see like the bar hitting someone in the face or something.
Do you know Ryan Crowley? Did you see that? He's a pro bodybuilder. I mean, big guy. He's 6'2", probably 300 pounds in his off season. And this happened maybe 6 months ago. He literally, I think he had 405 on an incline bench, and he got it up. And as he's bringing it down, first rep bringing it down, you literally, because he's wearing a stringer tank top, you literally see his entire pec just snap. I mean, in real time, you see with him holding the weight, his pec muscle pops out because it detaches from the bone. I mean,
I saw a guy too with that false grip where you keep the thumb on the same side as your fingers.
Yeah.
I saw a linebacker on our team at the gym. He had like 405 on the bar. And he did a couple reps, and as he was coming down, it slipped and rolled down the front and crashed right off his sternum. And he was okay, but just seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, we've had some comments on some videos I've shot for you guys here doing that false grip.
Okay.
This guy, what is he doing? The YouTube love that we all get.
Yeah, it's tough to keep your wrist straight that way, but
yeah.
And you're not getting to squeeze the bar as hard as you can either. I bet if you practice the other way, you could do more.
No, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it all carries over into all areas of your life. It's just adversity, right? The more hard things you've been through, then when you get to these challenges or obstacles in other areas of your life, you have some confidence that you've been through stuff before and you can do it again, as far as the weight room and competitive sports and things.
Because back to this programming thing, are you going to let the world program you? If you realize we're all running a computer system here, an operating system, which is our brain and our subconscious. So are you going to let the world dictate that, or are you going to be in control of this by exposing yourself to these difficult things, by putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, by pushing your physical body to its ultimate limit? I mean, there's an element of programming taking place in there as well.
Oh, for sure.
So amazing, man.
And then what do you have to keep proving it, though? It's like, played football, did the powerlifting. It's like I just got other kind of goals and aspirations now. It's like be the best father I can be the best husband I can be, build this business and have an impact. like further God's kingdom, do things like that more so than like prove how much weight I can move or
Yeah.
what sport I can dominate in, which really is awesome because that can be a platform for you to talk about your message or to show what you're gifted in. Like it's great to do that stuff, but I'm like in my mid 40s. I don't have that bug the same way. There's other ways I can get really uncomfortable and push myself.
Yeah. So what's the next 10 years look like for you, Mike? What's happening here at Critical Bench? What's the plan of, Strong by Design? You guys have had a massive impact. I mean, 2+ million, social media followers. We're approaching 1 million with the YouTube channel, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of programs sold over the last couple decades. So, what's coming from here? What are you guys most excited about working on right now?
Well, the podcast isn't something we make money off. That's just something that we wanted to do to kind of give back. Yep, Strong by Design podcast. So, it's great networking. It's really learning from awesome people. You get to have a conversation with them. If I were to call somebody up and say, "Hey, can I pick your brain for an hour?" They're not going to take my call. They're not going to want to have lunch. They're not going to want to let me sit there for an hour and ask them questions. But if I'm like, "Hey, would you be on our podcast? It's got this many listeners and we'd like to talk about this," and I can sit there and just learn, talk about like face-to-face learning environment of growth. Like I love that. And then everyone else gets to listen to it for free. That's just like, you can't outgive the universe. You can't outgive God. So it's like, that's really our way of like giving back in a lot of ways. I mean, I have one-on-one conversations and help people, but if we can get thousands of people listening to this stuff, I think that's really makes a difference in people's lives. So definitely excited about that. I love to keep growing the podcast. At the same time, we're building the business. Next step, we were just making our like our moonshot goals, our vision things. Like it's planning out like the next 5-10 years. You're supposed to like write a movie script for this mastermind and kind of picturing the future. What do you want it to look like? And you have to have that like vision of what you want, or else how are you going to get there if you're just winging it the whole time? And if you were to backtrack 20 years ago, I didn't actually know that I was going to be where I am today. And I don't even know exactly how I got here, and I didn't know it when I started. So now what I'm trying to do is think that big again of like, what's something that like I can't even picture because it's so awesome and big. And that's like this moonshot vision. And then I didn't know how to get to where I am back in the day, and I don't know how to get there, but I got to set my eyes on something and then figure that out step by step. So I'm in the middle of like trying to figure this out, but I will tell you, I'd love to get a compound 2.0, which is kind of like a facility like this, but I'm picturing it more like taking over like a country club and turning it into a giant, massive place with 4-wheel tracks going around it and a much cooler gym for filming and having different exercise studios where we can really have an app that's better than what's out there now, and just making it like an awesome playground for like all the employees. And that's one of the things I've been thinking about for sure.
Yeah. Love that. Talk about that goal setting process that you have, because I know that's one big thing that obviously you've worked a lot on over these last couple of years with, the group with Randy over there, and obviously the stuff you're doing, 100 million. You kind of threw this, you threw this term out there, kind of moonshot goal. Break that down. Like what do you mean by moonshot goal, and then what's kind of your, process of goal setting?
Well, there's a few different types of goals. Most people are familiar with like a basic goal.
New Year's resolution, right? Like every year I'm gonna lose 15 pounds this year.
Or like improve something like not too much, like 10% improvement or something. It's just like a pretty easy basic goal that you know exactly what to do and you're just going to do it, and then you're going to hit that goal.
Yeah.
Then there's a next step is called a stretch goal. This is like maybe you're going to double something or have 100% increase in something. You're not exactly sure how to do it, but you could come up with a plan that reasonably has a pretty good chance of working out. That's a stretch goal, and that's being aggressive and really kind of going for it. Moonshot is like off the chart. That's like way past 100%. So that would be like you've got a business making 10 million and you're saying I'm going to make 250 million. It's like you don't even know how to do it. You have no clue. If you were to tell your friends and family about this goal, people would probably think you're crazy or there's something wrong with you and like you're delusional. And that's the kind of goal I'm talking about for that moonshot goal. And that's kind of what I was just describing, where you make a goal so big that you don't even know how to get there. But you got to compare that to how far you've come, and you didn't know how to get to where you are now, and you're just like making it way bigger out there. And you got to have that North Star, that target, that kind of thing that you're thinking about. And then you got to start that programming process.
Get around the right people that have maybe done something similar to that when you share that goal with them, they're not going to chuckle. They're going to be like, dude, how are we going to make this happen together with you? Like, you got to find those people.
And that's that frequency and vibrations we talked about earlier up there. That's a whole nother thing. And the only way you can shortcut that success right there is by changing your influences and your environment. That's the shortcut. That's what's going to get you to every single one of these things way faster.
Well, that's amazing, man. This has been a whole lot of fun. I have no idea where we are time-wise, so let's try to bring it home here. You know, obviously respect what you got going on. Respect everybody listening and watching. We talked a lot about books. I want to ask you just, for maybe a book recommendation. So we shared Rich Dad Poor Dad. We talked about Crucial Conversations. You shared Linchpin, not as popular the book, maybe not as many people know about that. What's been one book maybe you've read in the last year that's really changed your paradigm on whether it's business, life? It doesn't have to be one. It can maybe be one or two, but really in maybe the last 12 months, like what's been the most influential book on you?
Well, you got to always throw the Bible out there, but it's probably not the one that you were expecting. But I would say one I read on vacation recently, I'm almost done with. It's called Rooftop Leadership.
Okay.
And actually a guy in Tampa Bay, and it's really awesome learning kind of like the military tactics to leadership and how that can apply to like business or life.
Yeah.
And really it hit home on that decisiveness core value. And they were talking about generals not making decisions and taking too long and like lives being lost because of it, because they were trying to gather more information to make the exact right decision. And it turns out if you've got 70% of the information, you have enough information to make the right decision, and you're going to have to adjust as you go. But at 70% information, go. Don't sit there and try to like make it perfect or gather all the information and just be stuck. So that was really hitting home. That's like stuff we learn in business and other things. And then it's cool to see the military implementing a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, just exactly what we were, talking about. Like, how does business carry over to personal development? How does personal development carry over to fitness? How does fitness translate into military? How does military translate into being a parent? How does being a parent translate into being a friend? How does being a friend translate into being a son? Like, it's all connected. The principles, the tactics. This is what makes the Bible the foundational book of everything. I mean, everything that's been written since that book, has been around is ran through that lens and through that filter, and it's just amazing. So,
basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Yeah, amen. Awesome, brother. Well, yeah. Let's. We have one last question here. We end every single episode with, but before we do that, Mike, where can people find you, or find Strong by Design, or find YouTube? Like what's the best place to connect with all this?
If you want to work out, we've got hundreds of free follow along workouts. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/criticalbench, and there's a whole playlist of follow along workouts. They're all like quick 15-20 minute things.
I've shot a handful of them in there.
Tons of awesome Frank videos. You've got a barbell one that's doing really well right now with a few 100,000 views.
Yeah, we need to get that to 1 million.
All right. And you do have another one that hit 1 million with like top dumbbell exercises.
Yeah, 13 dumbbell exercises for beginners. That's on the compound.
Yeah,
that's on your second.
Yeah, so if you want some free workouts, check that out. Our podcast, of course, strongbydesignpodcast.com. And if you want to follow me personally, I'm at Mike Westerdal on Instagram.
Awesome. So, guys, we'll get all that information plugged down there in the show notes below. Mikey, brother, thank you so much for joining us here today. Last question. So obviously the title of the show is The Superhuman Life. You know my story. We talked about it. You've been a part of this. You've been in it. You've witnessed it from the outside. You've just seen this transformation and journey in my own life. So when I talk about living a superhuman life, what it means to me, it's more of a belief system that I try to set my life by and live every day through this belief. So it's the understanding or belief that we were put on this earth for a purpose. There's a purpose for each one of our lives. And then we were given a body. We were given this one vessel to have this experience and live that purpose through. So a superhuman life is being aligned with that purpose, and then doing everything within your power to fully harness, to fully develop the body that you've been given. It's where we talk about faith and fitness. It's kind of the two pillars of the show here. So that's what I talk about, the belief system of living a Superhuman life and how you kind of lay this out and live it out in your own life. But I like to get the guest take here, Mike. So as we bring it home here, Mike Westerdal, how would you define living a superhuman life?
How do you define a superhuman life? That's a good one. See, I spent a lot of this on the podcast too, where I say you're strong by design because you were made in God's image to have a strong mind, body, and spirit. So you have a designer and a maker that has greatness planned for you, but you also have to take those steps. You're not just going to have everything just come to you while you just stay inside with the door shut, praying that like your wife is going to come knocking on the door.
Yeah.
It's like you got to take action. So it's not a partnership because God's in charge, but if you submit and then take the steps when you need to take the steps, I think there's greatness right there waiting for you. But you're going to have to step into that fear and you're going to have to take action.
Love that. Absolutely love that. It's almost as if you're the co-pilot of your life.
So it's like a double meaning for strong by design. You were designed to be strong, but you also need to design some of these areas.
Love that, guys. So you heard it here. Raise your vibration, raise your energy, pay attention to your influences, begin to take action, have faith in who you are, how you were designed, and your purpose here on this earth. Guys, we thank you so much for tuning in here with us today. For those of you that are listening on the audio side, obviously we ask at the end of every single show, how can you help support us? How can you help us grow this mission and get this podcast in front of more people or around more people? You know, it's so important. As Mike shared here, you know, our influences and the content that we're paying attention to. So you can do us a favor, guys. If you're getting value out of these shows and you haven't done this yet, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. And for you watching out there on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Drop us a comment down there below. What's your biggest takeaway from today's podcast? But for Mike Westerdal, Frank Rich, Strong by Design, Super in Life, we love you guys. We'll see you next week.